Welcome back to Lessons in Overthinking and Obsessing. In today's episode, I want to explore something that absolutely drains us and pulls us away from being ourselves and is such a sign of self-abandonment. I'm going to be talking about people pleasing. I will begin with what it is and some key signs of people pleasing. I want to talk about why these patterns develop, why they often make so much sense when we understand them. And I'm going to share a process that is going to help you to hopefully comfortably, well, as comfortably as possible, move away from people pleasing so that you can show up in this world in a way that feels more aligned with who you are, the life that you want to create, feel less anxious. When you're people pleasing, it's usually evidence of the ways that you've learned to adapt in order to feel seen, accepted, safe, to feel good enough. I'm Carly Ann, I'm a therapist, and really right now I'm working with thoughtful, self-aware, mainly women who know something deeper is keeping them stuck. You're tired of overthinking, tired of constantly worrying about what others think, and you're feeling disconnected from who you really are. And I've got such a frog in my throat, guys. You're going to have to really bear with me today. You're feeling disconnected from who you are, and maybe you're falling into patterns of things like people pleasing and abandoning yourself. And you're at this stage where you can really see it and you're done with it. I think that's the thing. You're done with it. Okay, I've got some water. Hopefully that is going to help with the croaky throat. Okay, what is people pleasing? Before we talk about changing it, before we talk about what you can do to move away from it, it's really important to think about what it actually means, because many women don't immediately identify with the term. Many of you, and actually it doesn't matter your gender, when I mention people pleasing, you may feel like, no, I don't really do that. It can be something you're quick to dismiss. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm just really thoughtful. I'm just the dependable one. I'm the one that people come to. And you're right. You are thoughtful. You are caring. You are aware. People do lean on you. And the problem isn't that you care about others. The problem isn't that people come to you. It's that somewhere along the line, caring for others became sort of intertwined with feeling responsible for them, or for somehow what makes you feel like you're a good enough person, intertwined to the point of abandoning yourself and putting other people above you. People pleasing at its core is not about being a good person. It's about prioritizing approval. It's about prioritizing people not being upset with you or being annoyed with you. It's about prioritizing, I guess, not just other people's, but almost like the judgment of other people. It's a way of managing the judgment of other people. When your decisions, when saying yes, saying no, or how you're showing up for yourself, in certainly in comparison to others, is shaped by a fear or guilt or anxiety, rather than what you genuinely want, need, or are capable of giving right now, because that's something that really varies. And so it really can show up very differently depending on who you are. For some, people pleasing looks really obvious. You might struggle to say no, say yes, and you might find yourself overwhelmed because everyone seems to need something from you. And other times it can be really subtle. Perhaps you're the friend who always checks in, remembers everyone's birthday, and instinctively notices when someone else is upset. So it can be really, really subtle. And again, I'm not saying that they're not lovely things. I'm saying that when they're driven by guilt and the fear that people will think you're a bad friend if you don't do them, that's when there can be an issue. You pride yourself on being supportive, but secretly feel hurt that nobody seems to take the same care or put in the same effort as you. Perhaps you're the partner who avoids bringing up issues because you don't want to create conflict, and you tell yourself that it's easier to let things go, but then resentment really builds up. Perhaps you're the mum who pours everything into your children and family, but feel guilty for wanting alone time or investing in yourself. Maybe you have your successful career, you're reliable, you're competent, but you struggle to delegate. You take on too much. You worry excessively about letting people down and you overdo it. And you know what? Maybe you don't say yes to everything. Maybe you actually appear quite assertive, but internally, you're constantly monitoring how you're being perceived and replaying interactions and wondering whether you've disappointed or upset someone. People pleasing isn't always behavioral. Sometimes it's this emotional, mental experience as well, spending hours analyzing whether you've come across badly. You feel responsible for other people's emotions. You're apologizing for things that don't require an apology. It's needing everyone to be okay before you can relax. And it's hiding your needs and shaping yourself and molding yourself and just in some way like exhausting yourself mentally or physically when a lot of the time you're doing things you just feel like you should be doing to protect you or to not hurt others rather than what you want to be doing. Here are some signs that you might be people pleasing. You might recognize yourself in this if you struggle to say no without feeling guilty. You apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. You worry excessively about what people think of you. You replay conversations long after they've happened. Avoid conflict and difficult conversations. You find yourself saying, I'm fine when you're not. You put other people's comfort ahead of your own needs. You feel really responsible for how other people are feeling and whether they're happy or whether they're sad. You seek reassurance and second opinions because you don't trust yourself. You rarely ask yourself what you want. You are fearing disappointing people and you're finding yourself over explaining or justifying your decisions. You struggle to rest because you feel you should always be doing something. You feel guilty when prioritizing yourself. And there is this longing or this secretly wishing someone would take care of you. People pleasing is not a flaw. That's not what I'm here to say. It's not you being weak. It's not proof that you're not good enough. It's something you learn because at some point in your life, being helpful, agreeable, easygoing, it helped you to feel loved, accepted, safe, needed. And so the problem is not that this exists. The problem is that somewhere along the way, you stopped including yourself in the circle of care. You stopped prioritizing yourself as well. And perhaps that's where healing really begins. It's not by becoming less kind, it's not by caring less, it's by starting to extend some of that kindness to yourself, adding yourself to your priority list. Where the deeper work comes in terms of doing the work, and where I think that, we want to reflect more and be really understanding with ourselves is when we explore usually the fear or the subconscious drive behind people pleasing. When we explore people pleasing more deeply, 9 times out of 10, we're discovering that the behavior itself is driven by you in some way attempting to protect yourself against something usually more painful. You're trying to protect yourself from rejection, from conflict, from being what you believe would be told off, from disappointing someone and maybe losing someone. You really see the abandonment wounds and the rejection wounds coming up in this. Perhaps there's this deeply held some kind of belief or assumption that in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, in order for things to be okay, that other people must be happy, that other people must be okay. And a lot of the time, these beliefs, they're not actually conscious. So many women are surprised when they really begin to learn and recognize that these behaviors, the way that they push themselves and go way above their limits, is because they've been driven by this I don't know what that was, this need to this need to be accepted in some way, and people pleasing. And it really, in the moment where you people please, usually a core wound or a core fear is activated, and there is just this overwhelming need to fix it, to make sure the person's okay. And sometimes that will be, you'll feel a bit uncomfortable and maybe find an excuse to reach out to a friend and start a conversation so that you're really just checking if they're okay. Maybe to your partner, you're going to be saying, is everything okay? Can I do anything? Can I make that for you? Can I cook for you? We don't have to go out for dinner if you don't want to. There will be the most subtle things. And you will be trying to find out if everything is okay, and to make it okay again. And then in the more extreme cases where you may really not be aware that this is the cycle you're falling into in that moment, you might feel desperately worried that you've upset someone, desperately worried that you're going to get in trouble, desperately worried that this is going to end badly in some way, and you can't even focus on other things. And I've alluded to this already, but the reason this is so key and it's such a huge part of the work that I do is because there is usually a link here between your earlier experiences and the pattern you're seeing as an adult today. And this is where I invite clients to become so curious. I love the idea of being more curious with yourself rather than judgmental. Curious about where these beliefs originate from and these patterns originate from. And I don't believe in the blaming or the endlessly analyzing the past, but I do feel we can really benefit from understanding and addressing the past. I strongly, strongly believe that your present experiences, what triggers you today, what triggers you into people pleasing, are deeply influenced by the conclusions you've made of yourself based on your past. They're deeply influenced by the experiences that you have had and the views you have of yourself and other people and the world today. And whether we are aware of it or not, we carry subconscious beliefs about ourselves, relationships. These beliefs are rarely things that we choose. They're formed through repeated experiences. Our earliest relationships, they are key in how you're showing up and wanting to people please, and how you're relating to others, and how you feel that you should be today. And they continue to shape the way that we interpret and respond to our colleagues, our bosses, our partners, our friends, our children. If, for example, you grew up in a household where your needs were dismissed or criticized or simply not responded to, or it was inconsistent, as a child, you don't conclude, oh, my needs are not being met here. You conclude, I'm too much. I shouldn't need so much. And if love, approval, affection, and having your needs met felt conditional, you probably would have found a way to meet those conditions. And a lot of the time, that is in some way pleasing another person. Usually, the way that we try to rebalance is by, how can I please this other person in front of me? And, it's a whole other world when things felt frightening or unpredictable. If you look back and you can personally see that you were hypervigilant to other people's moods, if you had to be the parent and you had to constantly be on guard, if you look back and notice, I had to try and keep the peace, I had to put other people above me, my needs weren't really even brought into consideration, then you may well see, yeah, of course I people please today. The remarkable thing about these beliefs is that they don't stay in childhood. They become the lens through which you experience adulthood today. The person today who struggles to ask for help is often not just struggling with asking for help. She's carrying a belief that if I ask for help, then I'm a burden. If I ask for help, then I'm weak. If I ask for help, then I'm not good enough. The woman who constantly worries about disappointing people is often not simply conscientious. She's carrying the belief that conflict will threaten a connection. If you seek reassurance, overthink text messages, and feel devastated by criticism, you may call yourself too sensitive, but actually, a lot of the time, you're operating from these deep beliefs and fears that if you're yourself, there will be rejection. Your current experiences, the current people pleasing, is not just who you are. This isn't just you as a person. This is not your identity. This is an outcome from where you've been, what you've seen, what you've witnessed. Unless these beliefs and these wounds are brought into our awareness and compassionately challenged, we tend to recreate these patterns over and over again. We stay in these habits. We end up resentful of the people pleasing. We end up exhausted because of the people pleasing. And people don't ever get to meet you. They don't get to go to your favorite restaurant. They don't get to try your favorite food. They don't get to do the things that you love to do because you're so busy trying to please them. It's so hard because what helped you survive emotionally when you were younger, it becomes a thing that exhausts you today, like lots of the things. And perhaps one of the most hopeful things about all of this is that if these beliefs were learnt, if this behavior was learnt, then we know they can be unlearned. If they were shaped through experiences, then they can be reshaped through new experiences. So you're not doomed to be people pleasing forever. Working with these wounds and challenging these core beliefs is something that I really do believe can help us break free from these patterns. And once these beliefs become visible and we can begin to question what is fact, what is real, will people really care? Am I over caring myself? Am I actually just doing something that's actually very healthy and very secure? And this other person is not responding in a fair way? Am I overthinking it? When we can begin to really question things and look at things, and even just notice when we're just worrying or ruminating and losing ourselves, and come back to the present moment because the thing we're worrying about isn't even worth our attention. Sometimes we know that, right? Sometimes we know deep in our soul, I'm worrying about whether this person likes me. I don't even know them and I'm never going to see them again. It happens in situations like that as well. We want to please a complete stranger that we're never going to see again. And once we are aware of it, we can really change it. And it's so important that I say, yes, we've got to go to the root and change those core beliefs. However, this is a podcast and we're not going to do that deeper work here together right now. I do have my signature single session, as you know, if you want to deep dive into the beliefs that's driving your people pleasing or your patterns. But for now, I'm going to share something practical that you can implement, that you would need to be doing alongside recognizing and working with the core belief anyway. And actually, this alone can help you to rewire. A lot of the time, yes, we need the core wound work, but it's not to overlook the steps that I'm about to talk through, not at all. I really hold both parts of the work as so valuable. If you've recognized yourself in this episode, if you have felt the drive and the inspiration to want to shift these patterns, then I want to leave you today with 4 steps that I really genuinely do encourage people to find a way to implement these shifts into their day-to-day life, to genuinely sit back and say, how can I actually make this change? Because if you are serious about lessening your people pleasing, lessening the self-abandonment, if you've really got to the point where you're like, no more for me, I have to shift this, it's really bothering me, or it's actually getting in the way of my day-to-day, then you're going to need to actually take the action. And that is these steps. So, step one is to make a list and decide where to begin. The first thing I encourage you to do is simply become aware of the ways, the individual ways that people pleasing is showing up in your life. For some, it's saying yes when you want to say no. For others, it might be apologizing excessively, avoiding difficult conversations. I want you to make a list of the way that you're people pleasing, who you're people pleasing, and once you've identified the patterns and the specific ways that it's showing up for you, I don't want you to feel the pressure to tackle every single one at once. Instead, I want you to ask yourself which of these feels easiest to begin with. Which one is maybe feeling the easiest, or you can go down the route of which one feels like it's the most distressing. Sometimes people want to start there as well, but you want to think about, you basically want to make a choice of which one you are going to start with. I say the easiest because, it's that idea of baby steps and small steps. But I can understand if you're like, no, I want to get straight to it. But if you get straight to it and go straight for the distressing one and it's just too triggering and too difficult at the moment, either book a single session with me or go back to your list and start with an easier one, because the goal isn't perfection. The goal is simply you're going to start somewhere. Step two is that you're going to understand the fear and you're going to meet it with compassion. So one of the mistakes I think many of us make is trying to force ourselves to stop these behaviors without understanding why they're there in the first place. Like I've been really saying about our core beliefs and our wounds. So do take a moment to really explore that. Really ask yourself, why is it hard for me to say no? What is it that's going on for me based on what I know about myself, based on what my experiences are? What are the fears that I have? What's hard about this? What am I afraid will happen? Those kind of questions are going to support you to really understand what is the fear underneath this behavior. What's the fear about stopping this behavior? It's such valuable information. You're not then going to criticize yourself or judge yourself. It's going to be meeting it with understanding. That makes sense. Really, that compassion, that curiosity, that's what's healing. They are the approaches that are healing. Self-criticism is not healing. Compassion and understanding, that's healing. Step three, you're going to look at your predictions. So, what I notice with thoughtful, anxious people is that they tend to mistake their negative, fearful predictions for facts. You have images and you see the negative outcome as if it's real. You predict that someone's going to be disappointed. You have visions of someone being angry at you and shouting at you. You visualize yourself being lonely or getting fired. Before expressing a need, you imagine you'll be seen as demanding or difficult, and you really believe it. You see it, you feel it, and you believe it. So what I encourage you to do at this stage is to write down your predictions before trying something new, before stepping into the easy practice, or if you've chosen the distressing one. You're going to step back and ask yourself, what am I imagining? What am I predicting? What is my mind telling me is going to happen if I change this behavior, if I don't over apologize, whatever it is? Because very often these predictions linked to step two, they're rooted in old experiences and old beliefs. And it'll be so interesting as you do the predictions, is if you see links with step two. You really might see that happening. And then again, you're meeting that with understanding, with curiosity. And it's the best feeling when you start to realize, oh, it's not about my boss. It's not about the person that I'm dating. There is something deeper going on here. Again, that's the work. That is us doing the work. And step four, you're going to practice and you're going to reflect, because we're gathering new evidence here. So step four is where we really change the pattern, not through insight alone, but through practice. I'm sorry to say it, the planning, the insight is not enough on its own. This is when you're going to practice saying no to something. This is when you're actually going to try and not apologize, even though you feel the urge to. This is when you're going to resist over-explaining yourself, or resist the urge to do whatever it is you want to do when you're worried that someone is upset with you. You're not sure if they don't like you. You're going to resist the urge to do what you would want or feel like you need to do, and you're going to be yourself instead. After you have not given into that urge, after you've not done the normal people pleasing, whatever it is you're deciding to work on, I want you to compare what actually happened with what you predicted would happen. So when you actually put this into practice, compared to what you predicted would happen, how do they compare? Because that's what I want you to look at. Very often, one of two things happens. Either things are absolutely fine and you realize that your fears weren't accurate, and you might not be surprised to hear that that is so often what people are telling me the most. It was fine. Sometimes it really is the case. Many times it is the case that it goes even better than you expected. However, the other thing that can occur is that people can be disappointed. A conversation can feel uncomfortable. Things don't go perfectly. And you discover something equally as important. You cope. The world did not fall apart. And that's where your confidence really grows. Your confidence grows when you see that there's opportunity for people to come around anyway, even if they were disappointed. For you to realize, you know what, I actually set a boundary and I feel good for it. For you, just like I say, to realize the world did not fall apart. It's okay. And over time, as you gradually work your way through your list from step 1, you're not simply changing behaviors, you're challenging old beliefs, you're creating new experiences, that old self and the new self. And you have to be asking yourself, when it comes to people pleasing, how does the old self compare to the new self look? In terms of future me, the life I want to be living, who I want to be, what does people pleasing look like? You'll be learning through these 4 steps that you don't need to abandon yourself. That is not necessary. And if you're listening to this thinking, I understand all of this, but I don't know how to put this into practice, this feels way too hard for me, I want you to know that is exactly why I created my signature single session, because 2 of you are not exactly the same. And neither are the ways that you protect yourself, and neither are the ways that you people please. And that's why every single session includes 7 days of support with me, because this is where I can really help you. This is where we make sense of what comes up, where we process the fears and the barriers, and where I can support you as you put new tools into practice. If you're interested in that, go to the link in the description. You'll find everything there. But as we come to the end of today's episode, I hope one of the things you're taking away with you is that people pleasing is not a character flaw. It's not a sign that you're not good enough. It's certainly not evidence that there's something wrong with you. They are patterns that helped you in the past but no longer do. And I hope you're leaving with the reminder that healing doesn't require perfection from you. Doing the work is a bumpy road. And I just think you can be so proud of yourself that you're even here. I'm so pleased you're here listening to this podcast. Like I say, I'm Carly Ann. If you're brand new here, then welcome. If you're returning, thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to ask for an exchange of energy. If you can subscribe, you can review. 5-star reviews apparently make such a big difference. Really to reach other people pleasers, to help grow this podcast, which is something I would just adore to happen. And yeah, I'm going to be back here on Wednesday, sharing a somatic practice for those moments where you really feel the urge to people please, but you're really trying to resist it. Because I want you to be able to embody it, become the person that doesn't feel the need to people please, and then not have to keep suffering with the guilt and the fear that comes afterwards. So tune into Wednesday's episode for that. You might notice that I'm at the moment doing a Sunday episode, a Sunday topic, followed on the Wednesday by an experiential or somatic practice to support that Sunday episode. Thank you for being here, and I will be back here very soon.